As we've been diving deep into the Yu Menglong case, one thing has become crystal clear. The entertainment industry doesn't give a damn about people. They only care about digits. Those of you who follow Trace Zero know exactly how a star can be exploited and manipulated to the bone while they're still breathing. But did you know? In this cold-hearted industry, a megastar's suffering doesn't just end, even after they're buried. The dead can literally be turned into eternal cash cows. Just last year, the late Michael Jackson still pulled in over $200 million. But in this exclusive Patreon episode, we're looking at a level of madness that makes what happened to Yu Menglong look like scratching the surface. We're stepping back to 2003, unpacking a scandal out of Hong Kong so convoluted it actually reshaped global copyright laws forever. This is the story of the legendary dispute over Leslie Cheung. On the 1st of April 2003, the Hong Kong megastar left this world for good. That day, the entire city wept for him. Fans were holding each other, sobbing uncontrollably in the streets. Radio and TV stations cut their regular broadcasts, while newspapers dedicated their entire front pages just to cover his story. Grief that raw, nobody could doubt it. But in a different corner, there were people pulling out their calculators that very same day. They knew damn well that the fading of a giant star isn't just the end of a life. Today, I want to take you into something people rarely talk about. The legacy Leslie Cheung left behind after more than 20 years gone. For over 2 decades now, his name, his face, his music, and his movies have kept making people rich. But the real question is, whose pockets is that money actually lining? By the way, for those of you wanting to grab some official Tracers merch, everything is live right now. We've got hoodies, tank tops, mugs, tumblers, phone cases, and a whole lot more. You can check it out by clicking the link below. It's fully integrated right here into the video. Let's start with a number. When Leslie Cheung passed away back in 2003, the public estimated his total assets to be around $51 million. You heard that right, $51 million. But remember, that was $51 million over 20 years ago. Just picture for a second, if you adjust that number for inflation today, how massive would it actually be? Tied up in that $51 million estate were luxury mansions, stocks, cold hard cash, and of course, the single most complicated piece to untangle. That piece was his life's work, his songs, his films, right down to his timeless perfect smile. None of that stops generating revenue just because the owner is gone. In fact, the exact opposite happens. You know how much the Michael Jackson estate pulls in annually? According to Forbes estimates, since Michael passed in 2009 up through 2025, the cumulative earnings from his estate have shattered the $3.5 billion mark. We're talking an average annual income of around $210 million a year. So you can imagine, even after a megastar is gone, their name, their image, and their catalog of film and music will keep churning out an unbelievable amount of commercial value. Now, I'm not saying Leslie Cheung's estate operates on the exact same scale as Michael Jackson's. I'm just using that number to show you one thing. In the real business world, the brand of a true megastar lives forever. So how exactly has Leslie Cheung's estate been managed over the last 20 plus years? Let's break it down together. Let's start with the absolute basics. Leslie Cheung never married. In the eyes of Hong Kong law, he and Daffy Tong shared no legally binding marriage. What does this mean? It means if Leslie hadn't prepared or sorted everything out from the get-go, Daffy Tong wouldn't have received a single dime. However, various media reports note that Daffy Tong once claimed Leslie Cheung had actually drawn up a will before November 2002. Yet, whenever the media pressed him on whether that will was still around or safely stored, Daffy Tong's responses always came off as vague and evasive. Ultimately, Daffy Tong inherited 50% of the entire estate. When you crunch the numbers, that 50% share came close to $25.6 million. So, what about the rest of it? Where did that money go? Leslie Cheung had 6 siblings, and each of them received roughly $2.5 million. On top of that, about $5.1 million was set aside for his 2 nieces. The remainder was donated to charity and given to his domestic helper and personal chauffeur who had loyally served him for years. But here lies the catch. That will only cover the tangible assets, like hard cash, luxury cars, real estate, and other things that could be clearly calculated. What about the intangible assets, like his songs, his films, and even his name and face? All these intangible assets whose values are actually skyrocketing, who holds total control over them? July 2003, less than 3 months after Leslie Cheung passed away, a new studio album suddenly hit the market, titled Everything Follows the Wind, Yi Jie Sui Feng. This album was the final recording project Leslie Cheung worked on during his lifetime. While cutting the tracks, he was actually battling a severe illness. Word has it that his faint, muffled coughs even ended up being captured in between the melodies. That was exactly why the late icon, famously known for being a fierce perfectionist, kept putting off the album's release. He constantly felt the results weren't up to par, so he refused to let it see the light of day. Yet, the moment he was gone, and when he could no longer voice his stance or opinion, the album was immediately published and pushed out to the public. Of course, putting this album out wasn't inherently wrong. For countless fans, hearing Gorgor's voice once more was a deeply meaningful comfort through the grief. Even so, many industry insiders deeply regretted the move and chose to steer clear of such a critical, sensitive moment. Rock Records spokesperson Kwang Man-wai stated that Leslie Cheung's passing brought him profound sorrow. Even though Rock Records held the copyrights to some of Leslie's songs, they weren't giving business a single thought at the time. Echoing that sentiment, Duncan Wong, head of Universal Music Hong Kong, also revealed that the entire company was under a dark cloud of mourning. It was simply not the time to listen to tunes, let alone talk business, so they hadn't even considered rolling out a greatest hits compilation. So, once Everything Follows the Wind officially hit the shelves, where did the royalty streams actually flow, and who exactly greenlit and pushed this album through? After all, the legend was no longer here, making it impossible for him to give the green light himself. It was a messy, incredibly complicated reality. And this very conflict became the catalyst that triggered the ensuing legal battle. When it comes to the map of Leslie Cheung's music copyrights, things get tangled real fast. During his lifetime, Leslie and a music producer named Alvin Leong set up a joint venture called Apex Music Production. This company held the master copyrights to Leslie Cheung's recordings. However, the distribution rights were held by Universal Music. Meanwhile, the copyrights to Leslie's personal, original compositions theoretically belonged to him, which meant those rights now passed to his legal beneficiary, Daffy Tong. As a result, multiple corporate entities ended up on the table, each swinging their own authority and business interests. That's why the second Everything Follows the Wind was officially released, a massive storm of trouble hit all at once. Leslie Cheung's eldest sister, Ophelia Chung, alongside Daffy Tong, slapped the court with a temporary injunction. They firmly argued that Alvin Leong had no right to transfer or use Leslie Cheung's master tapes without permission, as those tapes should legally be part of the estate. On the flip side, Alvin Leong stood his ground. He countered that he and Leslie were business partners, meaning he had full authority to manage the assets under Apex Music Production. Consequently, both sides found themselves locked in a bitter standoff as enemies. And between them lay something brutally real. This wasn't just about cash anymore. It was a battle for absolute control over everything the legend left behind. In the end, the court ruled in favor of Alvin Leong. Once the album officially flooded the market, prices skyrocketed due to its sheer rarity. Store shelves were wiped completely clean, and the record label raked in massive profits. And just like that, the very album Leslie had rejected his whole life for not being perfect or good enough ended up in the hands of the public anyway. You have to wonder how the late Leslie Cheung would feel looking down at all this chaos? Would he just offer another bitter, helpless smile? Because yeah, that is the brutal reality of show business. While you're still drawing breath, your work is yours. But the moment you're gone, it instantly becomes a pawn for contracts, copyrights, and the hidden tentacles of a faceless corporate machine. Now that we've completely unpacked the estate itself, let's dive into another question that's far more fascinating. Every time April 1st rolls around, the anniversary of his passing, Leslie Cheung's name echoes through every street corner and everywhere the eye can see. Look no further than the outside of the Mandarin Oriental Hotel, which instantly transforms into a warm ocean of flowers. The area is packed with wreaths, bouquets, photos, and heartfelt cards carrying messages of deep longing sent directly by fans from all corners of the globe. Not only that, but fans also flock to Po Fook Hill and his handprints at the Avenue of Stars in Sim Sha Sui, laying down flowers as a token of respect. At the same time, the Hong Kong Heritage Museum, or specific institutions, will usually host a memorial exhibition titled Miss You Much, displaying iconic stage costumes, rows of awards, and the legend's personal collections to look back at the incredible achievements of his career. Now, getting to this point, you might have already started to notice something. Whenever this moment arrives, Leslie Cheung's songs are practically guaranteed to pop up in the recommendation feeds of various streaming platforms. Major media outlets race to put out special tribute coverage. Various exhibitions and memorial events pop up both online and offline across Hong Kong, and even local cafes and restaurants join in by serving special menus themed around the legend. For the people of Hong Kong who love Leslie Cheung, using these different ways to remember him comes from a place of pure sincerity, an emotional tribute to a megastar. However, if we look at it from another angle, some people point to this phenomenon as the memorial economy. The act of remembering is fueled by genuine love, and that doesn't mean it's wrong. But the cold truth is, media outlets need traffic, platforms need viewers, and business owners need sales turnover. And that's where the magic lies. The name Gorgor is the most reliable magnet for all of it. Even long after he's gone, his energy still radiates, as if he is still keeping the wheels of Hong Kong's economy turning to this very day. Let's loop back to the question we asked at the very beginning. After Leslie Cheung's passing, who exactly is still leveraging his massive name and life's work to rake in the cash? The first party is the record labels. Universal Music holds the distribution rights for the vast majority of Leslie Cheung's catalog. So, every single time streaming platforms pay out royalties, or every time vinyl records and physical CDs are pressed for a reissue, their pockets get lined. It's all written in black and white in the contracts, legal, contractually sound, and pretty much the standard machinery of the industry. The second party consists of the copyright holders. This includes Apex Music Production, alongside Daffy Tong as the legal beneficiary entitled to the share of copyrights he inherited. So, whenever that work is pulled for commercial use, the royalty streams keep flowing straight into their accounts. The third party, and this is the hardest one to pin down, is the mix of event promoters, media outlets, and business owners. They don't hold a single copyright, but they ride the coattails of Leslie Cheung's massive name to generate traffic, exposure, and sales revenue. This is a massive gray area where the cash flow is incredibly difficult to track. And speaking of which, there's one specific incident I need to bring up. Hong Kong has actually seen cases where Leslie Cheung's photos and likeness were used illegally for business promotions without consent. On top of that, some brands have sold products claiming they were once worn by Gorgor when the items had absolutely zero connection to him. The tragic side of this is someone who has crossed over into eternity can't exactly come back to sue or defend their rights. Even their legal heirs can't realistically monitor and crack down on everything. But this phenomenon isn't just limited to Hong Kong. Across the globe, behind the death of every A-list megastar, the exact same story plays out on repeat. It's a structural flaw built right into the entertainment industry. The person might be gone, but the commercial value they leave behind remains intact, constantly pulled, dragged, and torn apart by competing interests. Yet, if we look at it from another angle, the fact that Leslie Cheung is so deeply loved by many also proves one thing. His energy is overwhelmingly massive. An energy so powerful that even long after his departure, he can still shelter and sustain the livelihoods of so many. Perhaps this is just how destiny works. Though separated by two different worlds, the people left behind can still make a living under the shadow of his massive name, regardless of the gray areas or the controversies surrounding the cash flow inside it. 23 years have flown by since Leslie Cheung left us. Yet to this day, his songs are still being sung, his films are still being watched, and the massive commercial legacy he left behind continues to feed so many people and so many corporations. This is the ultimate blessing and the real legacy of the megastar's charm for the people of Hong Kong. Of course, whenever April rolls around, we all welcome and fully back every single memorial event organized by those who genuinely love and wish to remember him. It completely brings us back to what we uncovered at the start. In this cold-hearted industry, the dead are so easily turned into eternal cash cows. Whether it's Michael Jackson or Leslie Cheung, their names outlive them, only to be dragged into a never-ending cycle of commercial interests. But when it all comes down to it, who actually has the ultimate right to guard a fallen star's legacy? Is it the market, the family, or the law? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.